So here we want to look at dividing rational expressions. The good thing about this is that it's only one more step than multiplying, okay? So the extra step that we're going to do is we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So what that really means that we want to do is we want to flip the fraction and multiply. Remember that the fraction that we are flipping is the one that is after the division sign, okay? Once we get into that multiplying, then we're going to do the multiplication steps that we did in our last video, where we're going to factor everything, cancel out the factors, and multiply straight across, simplify if we need to. All right, so let's try some. Okay. In our first example here, the first thing, since I see division, I'm going to flip this fraction. So what we really have is 12x to the 6th over x plus 7 times x squared minus 49 over 3x to the 4th. So that's honestly the only new thing that we're going to do here. Because now that it is flipped, all I'm going to do is multiply these radicals. Same thing we did last time. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to factor. So that's going to be x plus 7, x minus 7. Can cross that off. Now that everything is factored, I can go through and start canceling off common factors and reducing. So I'm going to start with my 12 and my 3 can reduce down to a 4. Then I can take my x to the 6th and my x to the 4th can reduce down to an x squared. I can cross off my x plus 7s, which will leave me with an x minus 7. Okay, so then the last thing that I could do, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and distribute that here. So I'd have 4x cubed minus 28x squared. All right. Now, let's look at another one. Make sure we got the hang of it. So hopefully, if you were pretty good at the multiplying rational expressions, this should be pretty easy for you. Okay. So we're going to start off, because I see division, that means I'm going to go ahead and flip this fraction. So what I really have is 9x plus 3 over 5x squared multiplied by 10x cubed minus 30x squared over 3x squared minus 23x minus 8. So that, remember, that's the only new step that we're going to do. Now we're going to factor everything that we can. So the top, or the numerator of the first expression, I'm going to factor out the GCF of a 3. So that's going to be 3 parentheses 3x plus 1. The denominator is already done. There's nothing to do there. The numerator of my next fraction, I'm going to factor out a 10x squared, which is going to leave me with x minus 3. The denominator here, I'm going to factor that to be 3x plus 1 and x minus 8. All right, so now that I have factored everything, I'm going to go through and see what I can cancel off or reduce. All right, so I notice I've got a 3x plus 1 on the top and the bottom. I've got a 10 and a 5, which can reduce to a 2 there. I've got an x squared and an x squared. So what I really have is I have a 3, a 2, an x minus 3 in the numerator, and then I have an x minus 8 in the denominator. So let's kind of clean this up a bit. I'm going to have 6x, remember that becomes a 6, and then I'm going to distribute. So I've got that 6x minus 18 over x minus 8. And that would be my simplified form. All right, I'm going to work through 2 more examples here just to make sure that we kind of got the hang of what's going on. So I've got division, which means I'm going to flip that second fraction. So I have x squared plus 4x minus 21 over 5 x squared plus 10x multiplied by x squared plus 9x plus 14 over x squared minus 6x plus 9. All right, so now let's go factoring. I'm going to factor my numerator, or the first numerator. I'm going to get x plus 7, x minus 3. I'm going to factor the denominator with a 5x being brought out for the GCF, x plus 2. I'm going to factor my next numerator to be x plus 2, x plus 7. I'm going to factor my next denominator to be x minus 3 times x minus 3. All right, so now that we've got everything factored here, I want to go ahead and see what I can cross off. So I can cross off an x minus 3 in the numerator, one of them in the denominator. I can cross off an x plus 2 in the numerator and the denominator, and that's it. Okay, even though I've got an x plus 7 in both fractions, they're both in the numerator. Remember, I have to have one in the numerator and one in the denominator to be able to cancel. So what I'm really going to have now, going to have that x plus 7 from the first there. I'm going to have the x plus 7 from my second fraction. I'm going to have a 5x, and then I'm going to have an x minus 3. Okay, again, if I wanted to go ahead and multiply that out and simplify it, I'd end up with x squared plus 14x plus 49 over 5x squared minus 15x. All right. Okay, last one. Here we go. I see division, so I'm going to switch. I'm going to flip that fraction. So I'm going to have 8x squared plus x minus 9 over 25x squared minus 1 times 10x squared minus 3x minus 1 over 2x squared minus x minus 1. All right, so let's get to factoring here. The numerator is going to factor to be 8x plus 9 over x minus 1. Denominator is going to be 5x plus 1, 5x minus 1. The next numerator is going to be 5x plus 1, 2x minus 1. And the denominator is going to be 2x plus 1, x minus 1. So honestly, I think the most difficult part of most of these multiplying and dividing rationals is the actual factoring. Like, there's multiple types of factoring all over the place, and I really have to be good at factoring. Remember, that's what I keep saying. Factoring will continue to show up over and over again. All right, so now that we've got everything factored, I'm going to cross off what I can. So I've got an x minus 1 here and an x minus 1 here. Got a 5x plus 1, 5x plus 1, and that's about it. So let's see, I've got left in the numerator, I've got an 8x plus 9 and a 2x minus 1. Left in the denominator, I've got a 5x minus 1 and a 2x plus 1. So if I wanted to simplify all that, multiply it back out, I'd end up with 16x squared plus 10x minus 9 over 10x squared plus 3x minus 1. All right, so that is how we are going to divide rational expressions. It's one extra step to multiplying. So the good thing is it's only one more step to multiplying. The bad thing is I still have to know how to multiply those rational expressions. So when I am doing this, I really got to make sure I'm 100% awesome at factoring, because that is probably going to be the most difficult part to this whole process. Once I've got it factored, then I just start crossing off what I can. And in the end, I can simplify it by distributing it back through. All right?